Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this APPI webinar where we do learn by doing, and our focus is on ARV and precognition. Today, we're focusing on what I believe is actually the most important part of ARV, which is the feedback session. What we'll be doing today is first I want to review ARV, describe it for the newbies. It's a review for the old bees. And then we'll get right into focusing on the feedback and feedback and feedback. We'll actually be doing 3, but the whole purpose of this is so that you'll really gain a deeper appreciation, deep down, deep into your subconscious and further down, so that you really pay more attention to it and set the proper intention and expectation. And we'll be talking about all of that. We're going to be doing feedback sessions for these 3. We'll be doing just some examples of all the transcripts that were submitted. And I didn't put it in here, but we will be doing a specific ARV prediction and the judging. So, as I'm going to show you in linear time, that comes first, but I really like doing things in this format where we pay special attention to the feedback. So let's now begin by defining the ARV protocol. So associative remote viewing in linear time starts with a remote viewing session. The tasking for that session is describe and sketch your feedback target, which you're going to see in the future. We're doing precognition. So when you're viewing your target, you're expecting to and describing what you're going to see in your feedback session. I mean, it's in principle, it's simple. Understanding ARV actually is simple once you accept the fact that you can share information with distant places, and in our case, also distant times, namely the feedback session. So your job is to describe and sketch your feedback target. So that's what you're doing during your remote viewing session. During your feedback session, which is in the future, then you do everything, and we're going to do that, everything you can to light it up, to entangle it with your earlier session. One of the amazing things about precognition, who's making noise? Let me turn you off here. One of the things about the precognition, it shows that the universe works in a way which obviously is not obvious, and still many scientists won't accept this, but it's been proven over and over again. The universe works in a way where information from what we call the future in linear time can be shared at earlier times. That's what precognition is all about, and that's what ARV takes advantage of. Now, in between in linear time is the analysis judging session. So there are 3 independent sessions involved. The independent in time. Now, here is where we want to do something which is of value to us. We're predicting the future. It might be a sports event, it might be a financial market, it might who will win the next election. We've done all of those sorts of things. And we want to learn something, but we want to learn something which we can potentially take action on. And it's during the analysis judging session when that happens. So we're doing binary ARV, where we're predicting the answer to a yes/no question. Now, here is where the two possible targets, notice the word possible, targets come in. There is only one real target for one session, period. Really get that down. There's only one target. But since we're asking a yes/no question, there are two possible targets. And guess what? One of those possible targets is associated with yes, and the other is associated with no. And this is all done randomly, so no one except the computer, frankly, knows which is yes and which is no. Now, the actual target, okay, so there's only one actual target, that's the one shown during the feedback session, will always be associated with what actually happens, with the yes or no, the correct answer to the question, which we'll know somewhere between the analysis judging session, because we want to take advantage of this, and when it actually occurs, and then we do the feedback session. So in linear time, the analysis judging session is, after that we can make a, we can do something, we can take some action. Now, the assumption, and in fact this happens most of the time, the assumption is that when the judge gets a really good match with one of the two possible targets, we assume that's because there was this good entanglement with the remote viewing session. And so that's how the remote viewer got such a good result. And that's why the remote viewer, when he knows a good result here, works to share that information with the remote viewing session. That's ARV in a nutshell. Now, I'm going to say it in a different way. These are the three sessions: the remote viewing session, the analysis judging session, the feedback session. Precognition, once you accept information can be shared, really begins here, because here's when you know the truth. And what we're doing is purposeful precognition. It's not like a deja vu that comes out of nowhere. You know, precognition is really around more than we appreciate. In fact, the more I'm getting into it myself, and others tell me the same thing, you begin to notice it more and more in your daily life. But what's happening here is it's purposeful. So we're asking a purposeful yes/no yes/no question, and the cue is describe and sketch your, and to distinguish one tasking from another, we simply use a 6-digit coordinate. Other people might use letters. It's just a way of bookkeeping this feedback target. Now, the targets that we use are photosites, and let me define that for you. A photosite is much more than just the two-dimensional picture you see. It refers to the location where, when the picture was taken, the photograph was taken, at the particular time the photo was taken. However, in remote viewing, as well as in ARV, of course, the consciousness is actually expected to move to the site of the photo at the time the photo was taken, and the intention is to describe and or sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. Now, if you think about what we've said about ARV, that should become clear, because that's to make the judging clear. The judge only has the transcript and the photos, the two possible photos to look at. So your job when you're doing your remote viewing is to describe and sketch the particular site at the time the photo was taken, but pick up everything that you could get from that physical location, which includes sounds, smells, all of your sensory, your whole nervous system, all of your sensory organs, if you will, are operating when you're doing your remote viewing, and they all can report and give you information on your transcript. But the information you should supply is what can be verified readily from the photo. So things that usually come up are what I call first impression gestalts, FIGs, just because that seems to be the way consciousness works. It'll pick up the big picture stuff first, but then it'll also give you all of your normal sensory stuff, color, shapes, dimensions, sound, smells, etc. So that's what a photo site is, and that's what our targets is. The targets are photo sites. Now, we've talked about the judging, and we will be doing that later. And so we'll get into that, but again, I'm just emphasizing that this middle one here is when we make the decision on what we believe the actual target is, and then we can take action. So I hope this statement, you feel it's true. If you don't, ask a question now, because that's what ARV is all about. Okay, so I don't know why I keep going backwards. I want to start now going into the focus on feedback, and I want to bring a different angle. You know, I always try to do these. You know, there's so much the same in many ways, and yet I always want to bring in different angles, which hopefully will help you be better ARVers and remote viewers. I want to now talk about vibrations, and I want to start with this. Physics Intuition Applications was the organization I started over 20 years ago, and it had a magazine, and let me hope this works. This is the Beach Boys. Okay, did you guys hear that? Would someone put in the chat box that they could all hear that? It's the first time I've played something like that, and I want to make sure you heard it. Okay, great, Millie, thank you. Now, vibrations. It turns out in this particular issue, I really put together a model, which I'm going to talk about again. This is this consciousness as fundamental model, but I put it in the context of vibrations. Now, we think of vibrations often in terms of sound. There's sound vibrations, water wave vibrations, light is actually all vibrating at different frequencies and things like that. But in that song, as well as this definition, which you have to look down the list until you find it, but here it was used as an intuitive signal about a person or a thing. And in the 1960s, and that's when this song was in the 60s, this was the time when, I don't know, it was sort of a time with the flower people and stuff like that. You guys may not be old enough to know all that, but there was some great stuff going on, and they used to use the word, I get your vibrations and all that a lot. But guess what? Vibrations are a big part of everything. In quantum mechanics, they're starting now, or actually for quite a few years now, talking about strings. And guess what strings do? They vibrate. That's the definition of how the string vibrates in its own fashion. It's very, very fundamental. And so at the very fundamental level of everything, it's vibrations. And there are different kinds of vibrations. You can pick up vibrations from people. Now, we can't quantify that in exactly the same way, but it's important to understand that that really is what's doing. The feelings that you're getting are going through your nervous system in a way that you have a reaction, and it's a kind of special vibration in your nervous system that's giving you your feeling. Now, here, and this was back, I don't know how many years ago this was in 2009, they already were doing work with fMRIs, the scanning kind of techniques, and they were able to tell the difference. They could go into your brain and they could tell the difference when you were thinking of a hammer versus thinking of a screwdriver, because different places would light up. There would be different vibrations causing different parts of your body to light up. Now, other things, they called it mind reading as well. This was actually done on 60 Minutes, and if you go to this link, you could click on that. But my point to you is that at the most fundamental level of reality, there are vibrations which are going up, which work up into the physical system, and they give you subjective consciousness. And I want to just call that subjective vibrations. I mean, you're vibrating in the very broadest and deepest sense differently, when you feel love versus feeling hope versus feeling other things which you feel. And the same with virtually every one of the other things which you are experiencing. Okay, so vibrations in this very fundamental sense are very, very important. Now, I've mentioned, sound, light, water waves, but it's this internal consciousness awareness, which is a very personal thing. And you could be looking at the same object, but each of you will be reacting differently to it. You'll be seeing it from different angles. You'll be reacting differently. The consciousness itself, okay, which is the most fundamental part of this, the vibrations are happening deep, deep, deep down, starting at a quantum mechanical level, but how that turns into your consciousness is the ultimate mystery, and yet it does. One thing you know for sure is you are a conscious being. Now, consciousness consists of these subjective vibrations that primarily exist outside of the four space-time dimensions. Consciousness itself is broader than that in some way. Okay, so these bigger dimensions are dimensions of ideas, emotions, and these things have their own unique vibrational signature. In addition to these, that also lead to you having a conscious awareness. I just want you to appreciate, as deeply as I can get you to appreciate it, that you are rather remarkable beings, and just don't ever underplay yourself, and just keep learning about yourself and these kind of capabilities. So I now want to get into your remarkable capability can do precognition, and it does retro-causality. And I want you to understand these. They're intimately connected, of course. Precognition is connected with the remote viewing session, The feedback session is now really connected in a very important way with retro-causality. And I want you to first get a sense of that. Here was an example done at our last conference workshop, and it was done obviously precognitively. Nobody knew that this would be the target. And look what a newbie did. I think you will agree that that's rather remarkable. He used Play-Doh, and we're going to have Play-Doh at our next one. But the agreement is remarkable. And this is his judge session, and he gave himself a 6 appropriately. You can see this was the A's and B's. We'll be talking about more of that later. But it's good for you to know that you mark up, when you do judging, you mark up your transcript. So he did this during the judging. And then he got his feedback. Now, where would something like this, where would this kind of information come from? Well, it came from the feedback session. That's why we call it retro-causality. When he did this session, he was pre-knowing. Cognition means knowing. When he had his feedback session, that was when he did the knowing, because then he knew for sure. So in our normal way of talking about knowing, again, in linear time knowing, the fact of the matter is he had this information back here. The universe works that way. Feedback, wait, okay. Feedback, now really think about this and get this. You've got the truth here. Here is when this newbie saw it. He probably got very excited about it in this case because it was so good. Sometimes you don't always get that excited about it. But here he probably did. As soon as he saw the feedback of the train, he got very excited about it. He saw it. We made him work it. We talked about it. We got into it. We did everything that we could think of to light it up in consciousness space, if you will, so that the vibrations here that were going through each of the viewers' beings, okay, would in fact, in this out of space-time mode, connect up with the remote viewing session. And, you know, no equations here. Physics would not ever at this point be able to, quote, explain this, because it doesn't know how to explain the transfer of emotions. And yet it's sort of clear that this was lit up when you get a result this good. So just get the feedback session is when you know the truth and when you go ahead. And what do you try to do? You try to reduce noisy vibrations. And then, of course, you try to increase the actual target vibrations by paying a lot of attention to that. So that's the broad strategy. One of my Precog pros, whenever he gets a hit, he always sends this along. So it's something he does. It emphasizes it to him. I know he works the target a lot with the transcript, and that's what we'll be doing a little bit later. Now, conscious vibrations have an influence at this quantum mechanical level that I've been talking about, like with string theory. And Dean Radin did what I thought was one of the most remarkable experiments that I've heard about in a very long time. There's something called the double slit experiment in quantum mechanics, where they'll shine light or electrons and now even other particles, and they will give a pattern which is not what you would expect. You'd expect if you threw real particles through two holes, you would see, a lot of particles across one hole, a lot of particles across the other holes. But when you get down to very small stuff, light and electrons and the quantum mechanical level, you see a wave pattern. Well, he came up with this idea. Can consciousness affect the way this pattern looks? And his conclusion was that meditators, look at the title here, meditators show stronger influences. And we're not talking about minor, we're talking about major, stronger influences. This is what's called the Z-score, okay? And a Z of 2 is considered statistically significant. You take aspirins if you do, based on health results with sigma Z scores of like -2. Well, look how far down this got, -4.5. And so another point to really take in is we have evidence that consciousness does in fact work and have influence at the quantum mechanical level. Okay, and I'm telling you all this because when you start doing your remote viewing, I almost want you to think that deep, that that's where the information is coming from. And it's coming from every cell in your body, every point in your body. Okay, so also, the other thing I really recommend for everybody, if you're not meditating, start meditating. Here we clearly show that meditators, and lots of others have said this, Schwartz says this all the time, meditation helps in almost everything, but it does help. He believes in remote viewing, and I think this is very strong evidence for that. Because what do you do when you meditate? You basically get quiet, and you're getting in touch with your deeper self. You're going down deep. You're getting rid of all the extraneous surface thoughts. Okay, so meditation, I highly recommend doing it regularly. So this idea that consciousness is fundamental, I want to go over this again because it really does, over all the years I've been in this is the closest I could come to putting a model together that where you can understand what is happening in our precognitive world, and a world where you can bend spoons and do all kinds of unusual things, where the old model, the materialistic model, doesn't work. Here's a model that works. Okay, if you take blue to be everything, all that is, okay, the physical, the spiritual, all that is, and not only in space and time, other dimensions are out there, it's in there as well. Everything that you can think of is in there. Now, you have to ignore the outer boundary, because the outer boundary, so this is like a circle without a boundary, because if you were to think of something outside that boundary, it immediately is inside because you thought about it. If you thought you had an unusual experience that isn't in there, well, you experienced it, so it's in there. And that goes for anything in the universe, present time, past time, and future time. So the blue is literally all that is. And this gives you this concept of oneness and harmony. I don't think there's anything else that's quite like that. Our physical universe doesn't have any physical boundaries. Our physical universe is in here, but this is even more than that. Past, present, and future. Okay, so now we as living beings try to separate things from this circle, but you can't. So you try to separate things from this circle, and guess what you have? You have what I call a fuzzy boundary. It can't be a boundary. I mean, there are no boundaries anywhere, inside, outside, nowhere. There's no inside, outside. There's just this universe of collective consciousness. That's what I call this blue thing. So there's a fuzzy boundary here. Well, that's the uncertainty principle. That happens to be one of the fundamental principles of quantum mechanics. Now, what about you and things and all kinds of other stuff which we bring out um, of from this UCC. You know, we look at things and I see my individual um, um, uh, mouse here. I'm looking at my scope. I'm looking at the keypad. You're looking at all kinds of things which we see as being individual. There really are a lot of them. But one of the things are events are in here as well. Okay, so I just want you not to think of this only as things. Think of them as you go to a baseball game, and the baseball game starts, you know, did it really start when the first pitch went off, when the players were coming out? It's got a fuzzy boundary, but there are a bunch of moments, now moments in there that you and everybody else in the stadium experience. So maybe that's the baseball game event. And maybe that's, okay, so there are a lot of events. One of the things which we know we can do, because we do it all the time, is we can decrease entanglement. We forget about that baseball game you saw, you know, last year. It's just not in our local consciousness anymore. It's still in the UCC, but it's not in a local consciousness. So we know we can decrease entanglement. Now that's another one of the key words in quantum mechanics. Entanglement, things which entangle non-locally, kind of outside of space and time. Well, one of the great things that we can do is we can increase entanglement. Okay? Imagine this being an ARV session. Imagine this being a feedback session. Your consciousness creates a handshake. That's a word one of the quantum mechanical guys actually use about connecting things non-locally. Anyway, and you can enhance this entanglement. Here's a model which explains that, which more importantly encourages you to do that entanglement. In quantum mechanics, they have knowledge that in the physical world, now we're talking about things like photons, electrons, that kind of stuff, that entanglement can be measured, transformed, and purified. What you basically have is a quantum information channel. That's how the information is going from the feedback session to the remote viewing session. And you know, obviously I can't emphasize this too much because I am emphasizing it a lot, and I hope you just get it deep down. If this is your remote viewing session, okay, here's your feedback session over here. During your remote viewing session, you're entangling stuff from the truth of the feedback session. Your remote viewing session might in fact go out and pick up something from the UCC, here's our universal collective consciousness, and it in fact is related to the feedback session too. You know, these are the really strong connections, but there are a lot of other connections. And all of this is happening really through this fuzzy boundary. You've got these gestalts that you might see. Okay, here's your gestalt you might see. But there are a lot of connections which you're able to make. And you make these by increasing the entanglement. Okay, so these are what are called elements. But now, look at your feedback session. Same sort of thing. Here's your remote viewing session. Notice time has nothing to do with all of this. During your feedback session, you're putting together these strong entanglements because you know the truth. And this is your intention. This is your expectation. You keep focus on the target. And again, these elements. So the feedback session is connected to the remote viewing session with all these entanglements that you make with your consciousness. Again, I'm getting really into this model verbally, because I really want you to get that this is connected to the very, very, very small. There's something called the 0-point energy field that is at the smallest level that you can get. But this field is everywhere at every time. I don't care where you go in the universe. Sometimes it's called a quantum foam, 0-point energy. Sometimes it's called a vacuum energy because you go and you think it's a vacuum. It's there. And there's a film clip that I won't show now, but they talk about nothing coming from nothing and disappearing back into nothingness. Now they're talking about things like electrons, anti-electrons, photons, anti-photons, stuff like that. But really, it doesn't come from nothing. It comes from a place, I'm just saying, outside of space and time, not even knowing what that is. It comes from something bigger where the 0-point energy field connects up the physical with the non-physical. Okay. One last way of putting it is that we start with our feedback session in conceptually, because that's where the truth is. Here's our remote viewing session. Here's the handshake. But all of that is connected, this handshake, feelings, your intentions, your expectation, all the kind of positive things that you can put in both of these sessions. Here, you're a receiver of the information, which you can think of as coming from there. But it ultimately comes from this universe of collective consciousness, which entangles both of these. And I hope when you get into this, when we do our session later, and when we do the feedback sessions here, you kind of realize that every point in your body, every cell, but even the smaller points within your cell, are part of this 0-point energy field and connect up through the universe of collective consciousness. Okay, I wanted to show this again, which is where I started this discussion, because this was a newbie, but I want you all to get that you can learn. This psi learning is real, and it's about this communication between your consciousness, your subconsciousness, and the universe of collective consciousness. And this happens to be, for Donna, I don't know if she's, yeah, she happens to be here. This is her hit rate chart. The red is the hit rate cumulative. So notice she started out, you know, down low, 30%-ish down in here. Now she's still overall only up to 50% overall. But if you look at her 10-day, the blue here, you see how it always goes between 10 percentages. Her 10-day was up to 80% back here. You know, this is now. She got up to 80%, even hit 90% one time. And the green, which is the one I consider most significant, I would say it's the closest to what your probability of next prediction is. It's a 25-day average, ignoring passes here. And you can see here she's up to 76%. I mean, this is just a wonderful example of learning, which all of us can do by paying attention and doing, watching what happens, learning from your hits, and maybe learning more, and probably learning more from your misses. Your opinion of yourself is your most important viewpoint. You are infinitely greater than you think you are. That's a rather well-known scientist. But how much do you think you can do? Can you get up to a 80, 90% hit rate and stay there? How do you have? Do you know you can do precognition? And now it's just a matter of getting better and better at it. What is your view of yourself? And then Galileo said, you cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him find it within himself. And that is true, especially in this field. You know, I can teach you arithmetic. I can teach you algebra. I can teach you, you know, I really can teach you many things up to a certain level. But when it comes to precognition and things like that, you need to build up this interpersonal communication channel. And you're going to have to find that within yourself. Okay, any questions or comments on that? Next thing we'll do is we'll get into feedback, but I do want to, you know, turn on your mic if you have any questions, comments. Mostly understood it, and just okay. Okay, so we'll leave it at that, and just you do your precognition and retro-causality. So now let's do feedback. We're going to do 3. This is the table. I just didn't get the first 6 on there, but this is the table of predictions. During these Wednesday webinars is when we make these month-long predictions, and here they're listed, the date we did it. This is the prediction, and then whether we got a hit or a miss or a pass. Obviously, if we pass, there are always passes. So we'll do these 3 yellow ones, and then we're going to make a new prediction on a sporting event. These are mixed sporting events, financial. We actually did some political stuff as well about Trump and Hillary and things like that. Okay, so let's begin. We'll do the first one, will be the Patriots. Will they win the AFC conference? You know, they lost the Super Bowl, but they did in fact win the conference. But that one happened to be a pass. But you always do feedback with the real outcome, so we can learn. You have to get your feedback. It's a key part of this. So how do I get my feedback, you might ask? And for your newbies, everything that we do is based on email, information going to our server, and sending out emails and saving information so you can look at it later. Things like the hit rate chart that you saw, but also there are text boxes as we go through this that you fill in, and those are all available to you as well. Okay, so how do I get my feedback? Well, through your email. So let me go to my email. Let me not get it that way. Let me get it over here. Okay, so here's my email. Here's the training. Let me see if it's, oh no, that's the new coordinate we're going to be doing. Okay, so this is the Patriots. So you would get, in fact, this is the feedback email that you get. And it has this link, but notice it also says, in this case, I said the Patriots did win, even though it was a group pass. The event is listed. Will the New England Patriots win the American Football Conference? The answer was yes. And then we now, by clicking here, get the associated possible target that was associated with yes, which is now the real target. So those of you who had that coordinate, which was 530120, I believe. Let's see. So all you do is click there, and people usually, in fact, except in these kind of seminars, have their own individual target. And so you have to put in your email, which is what you put in when you got your coordinate, and I'm representing all of you, and there it is. So now you're seeing 530120. Those of you that did this, I recommend you say it out loud. That's one example of entangling with the remote viewing session, when I recommend you say the coordinate out loud there as well. And so 53010, there you are. Now here is an example of putting in text, which in fact, which after you do your feedback session, you put in your feelings, thoughts, stuff like that, which are saved, and you'll have access to it at a later time. So let's go back here. I had copied that. And now let's look at a transcript. So I happen to choose Evelyn's here. We don't have time to do everybody's. And Evelyn, there you are, Evelyn. So Evelyn has been around a while. And so I'd like to ask her if you can turn on your mic.
Can you hear me, Marty?
Yep, we hear you just fine.
Trying to get this mic to work. I wasn't sure if it was working.
It is working.
Oh, wonderful.
Now, Evelyn, what I would like you to do is, in fact, I wonder if I can give you, if I have to annotate or if you can annotate. I would like you to do, oh, I don't think you can draw on my screen. Okay, but what I'd like you to do is not discuss the session. I'd like you to do a feedback session. You know, do a feedback session as much as you can as how you do at home when you're doing your other sessions. You know what I'm saying?
You mean go through what things I felt like matched and stuff?
Well, is that what you do at home? So I'd like everybody's going to work out a technique which is somewhat different. And if you don't mind, I'd like you to share with us the technique you use and actually do it here.
I go through and I mark it yellow if it's A and B and green if it's B. So later on when I look at the session, I know which one it was. So I mark things like the word smooth, metallic, fresh air. Those were all right on. Now that was back in the days when I really didn't do much with the ideogram. Now I'm using the ideogram more. But I think that ideogram pretty much looks like it matches. It's, you know, got the idea of being out in the air and stuff. And then the next drawing, the first drawing is an arc-like thing. I could see that there was an arc-like shape with something in the center. And what it is that little triangle on the front of the train, I think, and the arc shape of the train straight on. And it was kind of feathery, but it's like that mist that's coming, that looks like there's a mist around the train a little bit. And so I called that feathery. And so that's kind of the train moving along the track, the next one with this really mist-like look around it. And then I got the word crank, high-pitched and squeal after I drew that drawing in. And those all fit a train. And the next one is kind of like a side view, and then the smoke rising up. So everything was pretty much right on, in the colors too. And I felt really strong about the session, and yet we had as strong a session for the other side. So I remember we had quite a debate.
We passed, but you were the one. You got the 4.5. Out of 7 for the newbie. We'll be talking about that later. How do you feel about that?
I feel good. I really felt good about that session, and of course I was only halfway through my first year. I've only been at this a little over a year now, so I was still pretty new. Mm-hmm. This was right after the conference, and I had listened to everything at the conference that I could, and been doing the the carve sessions, and
Okay,
it
now do you do?
started on them. So I don't think I'd done more than about 40, maybe 30 or 40 sessions when I did this. I've done I think close to 100 now.
Okay, let me
So
ask
I
you
feel
this.
really good about it. Yes,
Okay, that's good. And feel good,
good
and you're
entanglement.
exchanging that. You're exchanging that now. Now, let me ask you this: do you add something? I always recommend, and again, even though it won't entangle with it now, it will set up the idea that you're always going to try to improve yourself by saying, gee, I got green here, but I didn't get that yellow. Why don't I write on my piece of paper now yellow and experience yellow at the subconscious level and share that in a way which next time I get something like this, which is yellow, it will be shared. In other
Well,
words, now working it.
I think it was John suggested doing that, and I've been doing that, making a list of words that could have matched things there, and trying to make them not so much nouns but descriptors. And so I probably would say foliage now, and maybe rocky, and describe the hill a little bit as well as the train if I was adding words,
Yep, and
and
yellow. And when
and
you add,
sounds, and the fact of movement. I didn't write the word movement down then, but I really didn't know that much about putting movement and energy. So I would say definitely strong energy and movement should be part of this one.
and don't only write them, feel them. Feel
Yes.
them go like through your body, all
Well,
the
and I
cells of your
copied the
body
picture.
and down into the subconscious, and you're sharing it really with your vibration. You have a unique vibration. You can think of it as your DNA. Your DNA has unique vibration. And, you know, even if we just think about every one of your cells communicating with the UCC, that's good. And what you're now communicating is the feeling of movement, which will be down there. So the next time movement comes, up will come movement to you because that'll be your intention.
And
So,
I've ridden the trains as well.
mhm,
So, the rumble, the
right.
the feeling shaking back and forth, the exciting view you get from a train that you don't get from a car. There's lots of aspects of being on a train as well.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And who knows? Sometimes there may be another train that'll come up or something similar. Even an airplane, you might get some of the same sort of things for that. That'll now come up in a clearer fashion because you've just taught yourself that. That's great, Evelyn.
I liked what Deborah had to say about printing off the picture, and so I did that with my feedback from the one from Carve that I didn't do so well on. I did print off the feedback picture and do that. But I really enjoyed that session with her, and boy, I drew that one right on, even the shape of that opening in the thing. So that was fun.
Yeah, that was a good one. Good. Thank you very much. We did not do anything that needed what I call the 5-second rule here, which is it started with food. I think when kids would drop food, a parent might say, at least in some conditions, hey, yeah, pick it up quickly and you can still eat it. But what if you were to get a miss? You might have tried to focus on what you remembered from the other picture. Don't want to do that. All you want to shine on is the target. If you catch yourself doing that, or when you catch yourself, which is very natural, about feeling terrible, if you pardon the expression, oh shit, I got a miss. That's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. Just don't dwell on it. You want to now go back and find the positive things in your session and give yourself a lot of credit for those, and then go ahead and learn something by doing just what Evelyn did. Get into the things which you wish you had gotten and take the time to share that with your consciousness all the way down deep. That's how you're going to learn. Okay, let's do the second one. We'll do the Dow Jones Industrial one. That coordinate was 710972. I'm not going to go bring it up. I've already brought it up, but here's, that email. This was the feedback for 710972. Now, here I took Anita. Yep, there you are. I happen to choose people who I usually come to these in these two cases because I wanted them to do a typical feedback session for them. So Anita, can you do that? You have a mic that works? Anita, are you there? Okay, so she may have left. Oh, there you are. Good.
Here I am. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, feedback session.
Okay, first of all, first thing you see, these were pretty close, but you decided to go with the 4.5 and you got a hit. How does that feel?
It feels good.
Okay.
It's good to go with your feeling.
Well,
because your feeling is usually the accurate thing.
Okay, so how do you do, and I don't want you, well, you can partially talk about it because you can't actually do it. I think there's a way, and I'm going to try to figure that out for next time, where you can do a pencil and actually write on the screen. But why don't you actually do your feedback session now, as close as you can.
Okay.
Okay, so what would you do if you were home with this and the transcript and picture were in front of you?
Okay. Okay, the first thing I would look at is what came to mind, the first thing that came to mind, if it was a color or a shape, and then I would look for that in the picture. What got my attention first. And basically, initially, I thought I was looking at you at your desk. But then I got like a person sitting with something square.
Right.
And
you
I
got
think
red,
that is the thing
so you would be good at that.
that sticked, that first impression I got. And then I got all the other aspects, the
Right,
colors.
so here's a person and there's the square. Would you circle them on your transcript?
Yes, things that repeat also.
Okay.
Because usually I get like a image or an idea, and then some of the aspects or colors or shapes or things often repeat afterwards, like you can see below with the person and the square above. Okay.
Yeah.
When I'm at home, I usually just take it from the top to the bottom and see anything that matches, and obviously then I take the picture that draws my attention first, and I go take that one first, and then the next one after that. Because what I find usually when I get the two feedback pictures is that the one that draws me in when I open up the feedback is usually also the one that is the more accurate one in the end. It's just something I noticed today. But obviously, of course, you do your session and you do your maths and you compare that with what you have.
Okay, let me say I'm looking at this, and do you also, because I do this with my feedback, I often notice things that I missed. This was the A photo. Notice here,
Yes.
I'm looking at this, you marked B, but I'm looking at that, and that looks an awful lot like this.
It does, hey? You notice you go through things afterwards and you think, but I noticed if you do that often, when you go through your transcript a second or a third time, then it's actually your rational mind that does the thinking. And often then you get things wrong. So I think it's better to go with your first impressions, even though afterwards they look wrong to you, because sometimes two for different photo sites often share the same aspects. But I totally get what I saw that too.
Right. Yeah, because if it shares both, at least some people, and again, the
Yes.
viewer is in charge. So if you only want to do the first one, that's fine. But just so other people know, sometimes they might have put an A and a B here, showing you
Yes.
both.
No, that's something I did miss.
But you
I
do it.
could
You
have
do,
done that, yeah.
right. But I'm not suggesting you change anything. You have to decide to change if you want to, because the
Yeah.
viewer is in charge. Okay, now what would you add? Do you do that as your normal part of your feedback? Do you add things you wish you had done so that you can learn?
Usually afterwards I make my notes and things, and I've almost got like a little list of things to remember that I can learn from.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, I think one can look better at judgment, at the aspect. Sometimes you mark things wrong, or not wrong, but incomplete.
See, I wouldn't do that here very much. I would note it, and yes, just take, but
Yes.
the 5 second
Just take
rule,
note of it.
go
Yes.
on to what would you want? What would you wish you could do that would be important to learn for future remote viewing and ARV sessions?
Oh, goodness.
Let's see, how about you got red, but you didn't get blue.
Yes, I
This is
got
a
more
good
like,
time.
I seem to confuse green and blue often. I don't
Ah,
know why.
okay.
Maybe I'm colorblind or something.
At the subconscious level, why don't you now teach yourself?
Yes, I
And that's sort
confuse
of an
green and
off
blue.
blue. I don't even know what color I would really call that, but
Yes. But in general, it's something I noticed. I don't know
interesting.
if one's subconscious can confuse colors.
Well, now you can teach it. You can say, hey, when I get a color something like this,
Yes,
let's you call it blue. Let's call it blue. And through your cells all the way down, blue, blue, blue. And that's what it looks like. I'm looking at it at the same time I'm using that word, because the connections
yeah,
between what you see and the words that come up. You know, a lot of people, you and Evelyn are both visual. You know, you do words as
yes,
well, but you do a lot of sketching. Not everybody
yes,
does. And connecting those
yes,
two, I think, are very important. So that
yes.
might be one thing you could have done
Yeah,
for learning.
and I think I'm sketching all the more. I should really switch more to words. That's something uh, I want to integrate more.
Which is what?
Um, Putting more focus on words like the colors and the textures and the
Yeah.
smells. I mean, I do it in my sketches, obviously, um, but I feel I can do more with the words, put more accent, and put more attention to the senses, not just sketch as much,
Yeah.
because
Well,
it
I
can
wouldn't
get
cut
quite
down on
chaotic.
your sketches are good.
I can get
But
quite chaotic if I get a lot of information.
well, that's right. But anyway, now would be a time to do that, where you say blue, blue, blue,
Yes.
that sort of thing. Okay, thank you very much. Um, period. That's wonderful. That's a good example. I hope people are getting it. No, someone wrote a comment. I like the chicken sound. Okay. Okay, so let's do the third one, which is 700,976. Here, I think I actually did two examples because of the thing I was talking about with words. Also, in the comment box, you see, this is the feedback or the outcome email that comes to everybody. So this is that one. So in addition to indicating the winning side was yes, and it was a hit. In this case, we said it was going to be under 7,000. But my comment I wrote here, I think, is important. Some people get personal misses. Not everybody goes the same way. And more important than the fact that the group had a hit is for you, each of the viewers, to do a really good feedback session, whether you had a personal hit, miss, or pass. Always something to learn about yourself and improve for the long term. I think that's a really important mindset. One of the things we're learning because of all the psi stuff, which is now, I think those of us here, if you've made yourself here, you know that the capabilities that each of us have is so much greater than we usually give ourselves credit for, that now is the time. Using ARV is the perfect place to increase those capabilities. And having the mindset that you can do that you can improve for the long term, always. There are always things you'll be able to get better at, until you're the UCC. And, that's probably not going to happen for a while. So, in fact, you would have to disappear to be the UCC. There couldn't be a you anymore. So, as long as we're working on you as an individual, who has their own journey, you can just keep getting better and better, and know that. And the feedback session is just the perfect time to do that every time. Okay, so that's what that all means. So here for 700976, this is the target. And Lila, no, Lila is not here.
I am here.
How come I don't?
Well, it says Fire Soul Writer.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot. You're right. I know that's you. Good, okay. Lila. Beautiful.
Yay.
Okay. And say the coordinate out loud. I forgot all of you to force you to say it. Say it out loud.
7000976.
Yeah. And I don't know if you did it at the original time, but I know I probably did, and you probably did too. But okay, how are you feeling about this? I see you.
I'm feeling great.
Okay, so go ahead and do a feedback session as close as you can in this environment as you would do it at home, so other people can get a sense of it.
Oh, well, I like the dynamics that I have there. Alive and flow, especially flow, because that's what the water is doing.
Why am I not? Yeah, I'm not seeing.
Under dynamics?
You know what? I wonder if I make you a co-host, if you can show.
Share my screen.
Zone. I don't. Yeah, but I want to keep this screen up. I'm going to have to play with that later. Okay. But where is it? Where? Okay, so you've got flow. Say it again.
In my dynamics.
Okay.
The word flow.
Dynamics. Yeah. Okay. See? Bouncy, waving, right? Flow, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Waving, of course, is very good. Even bouncy, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Water bounces.
And this was loud and noisy. Okay, so I'm sorry. I want you to do it. So you're pointing that stuff out. Do you circle it on your transcript to emphasize that that's the good stuff, or?
You know, I've started doing this. This was back in, this is just January. I've started underlining or circling the ones that are just really spot on. Mm-hmm. My colors as well kind of show.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Colors there. Right? Dark,
very
light,
nice. Yeah,
green.
I put a great big circle around those. Some people do stuff on another sheet of paper just because they want to preserve it, but I don't. But anyway, boy, look at those. That was great. And look here, you got water right off.
Oh, yeah. Water, bubbles, snow.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably melted snow. That's what it looks like to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
But it
color.
does look like it's flowing too. It's
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's right. Beautiful.
So that one, I feel like I really hit the target.
That is beautiful. Yeah. And I noticed here you got 19 matches for A, only 7 for B, and
Right.
yet these two are pretty close. Do you remember what your mindset was? Why didn't you make A even higher?
Yeah, why didn't I? Good
I mean,
question.
even at the level of gestalts. Oh, and I meant to ask, though, I think they mentioned gestalts. Look, you've got the gestalts here, the outdoors, the water. I mean,
I
I
don't know
think this could
why.
easily have been a 5.
I suppose it could have been. I personally tend to lower my score, give myself a lower score.
Yeah,
Probably
okay.
because I don't think I'm that great.
Hey, we think you're great, Lila. Come
Okay, thank you.
on. Okay.
Yeah, so this was a very, very good one for
Oh,
me.
this really was a good one. As I
Okay,
say,
let's
I
give
could
me a
see that.
5
I could see
or a
that.
5.5.
Yeah.
I'll change it. I'll change it on my sheet. Give myself a
That's
5.
certainly in your mind. But that's why we do this. And that's the kind of thing at the feedback session, after really getting into it in the consciousness, your intellect is there. You could think that too. Maybe this was worth a 5. It's okay to think that. You're not doing anything with the other target. We don't want to bring the other target up at all. We're bringing this one up and thinking it could be a 5. Maybe next time I judge, when I get something like this, I'll give it a 5 instead of a 4.
Sure.
Okay, so very good. So let's go to the next one. Thank you, Lila. Millie, there you are. Good. Millie, you've got a mic working? You're looking for it, or did you leave us? If you left us, raise your hand. Okay, good.
Okay. So this Gestalt idea was kind of new to me because I wasn't trained in it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started this kind of practice, I tried to make little notes on things that might have been a Gestalt. And it was kind of like hard to see where I might have put them in, but they just
New
kind of
stuff,
came
yeah.
out
Yeah,
whenever there was no like form to it. But like outside. And then I tried to put like little notes near kind of words that didn't like go with the flow, or like where did that come from, and I tried to make a little mark next to like kind of those words that were like really off or didn't
You
go
know what
with.
I would recommend, and I certainly do this, is get different color pens or pencils. So
Okay,
I
yeah.
use a different one for the judging and for the feedback. So,
Yeah.
and that's how I can always distinguish them. Okay, but go ahead. Why don't you also say the coordinate out loud for me?
700976.
Okay, and okay, and continue. So you're doing that was in the judging. So now do your feedback session like you would do it sort of at home.
Okay, so the feelings is the one that I kind of look for or pay attention to, and then other they're kind of all over the place, but so I'm not the best artist, but more of like the impressions of what I get, and then I try to put it down. But for the feedback session, let's see. Yeah, I'm just trying to go over the session.
Finding something.
I didn't think you would pick me, so I was like, I don't know.
Well, that's fine. You're not supposed to. Hey, when
I'm
you're at
like,
home, when you're at home, you're ready to do your feedback session, but all you do is you bring up the transcript, and then up comes a picture,
yeah.
and then you look at it to find things that are good and match. So do it now. Maybe there's a little more stress here because people
that's
are.
right. I remember this one was as far as me trying to do better on the drawings, I was trying to pretend to draw an outline of it. So that's why I got this kind of butterfly thing, because it was like a figure in the middle and then things that kind of like opened up around the edges. And I was trying to figure out what was that, and I just kind of put maybe words trying to match what the feeling was or the image in my third eye was.
How do you
And
feel
that,
about that? How do you feel about this one?
I
Compared to
feel
this?
good, although I think I could have done better by asking myself the question, um, can I have something more significant that would match? You know, I think you went over it a little bit, like at the end I'm starting to ask, is there anything else that I need to put down that could give me a more descriptive, like overall descriptive word of the picture? So that's what I've been trying to do at the end. Like,
Sure.
is there anything else, or the most identifiable word that would identify this picture? So I felt I could have done better on that aspect of it, trying to get that from my subconscious, like the last few things that I needed to write down.
Okay, let me maybe change the flow here a little bit. I look at this picture and I say that that's pretty good compared to this. You know, it's got two sides. This looks like it could be the water. And when you were talking about it and looking at it and says, yeah, it was okay. What I would do right then, when you're working the picture, right next to it, draw the way you wish it to be. Draw it a little better, you know? You don't
Okay.
want to sketch it because you know the level that images come up, but you say, gee, wouldn't it have been great if I could have done that and maybe made the gully a little bit clearer. You know, you have it here.
Yeah.
I think that was great, but then just do it a little better. And
Okay.
what you do, and as you do it, know that through all your cells, you're sharing this with the UCC in a way that'll be available for future sessions. You're teaching yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, and go. I mean, I see all kinds of good stuff here. Vibrating, sound, humming, banging. Even banging, you know, it's noise. And so
I was
you,
trying to look for some dots. Sometimes, like when weird things come up, I write the word down and I put like little dots next to it because I'm not really understanding what they're trying to tell me. And I didn't remember if I saw, maybe by curved, I might have put some dots, but I'm not sure. So that's why maybe if I see, I'm trying to
are you
look through
talking
here.
about at the remote viewing time?
Yeah, like when I'm in the session
Okay.
trying to describe the thing.
Universally, people, all the trainers, and I'll even tell you, don't try to understand.
Okay.
That's intellectual. What you're doing is taking in the entanglements from the feedback session. See what I'm saying? You're not trying
Yeah.
to understand it yet. When you get the sense, in other words, you don't try to understand it. Sometimes the AOL analytical overlay will come in and says, oh, that must mean you got furry, that it's a cat or it's an animal. And then you do just like you did here. You write AOLs.
Yeah.
But I would not spend time during the remote viewing session trying to understand. That's so intellectual. If that
Okay.
comes up, just get quiet again and then go back into an open receiving mode.
Okay.
Okay, I'm looking to, again, if you had different colors, you would just, again, probably circle some of those that were really good, go over the A's again. Yeah, cool is,
Yeah, an A.
cool is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
The
now,
dimensions wavy,
yep.
open-ended, kind of round rolling.
Yeah, open-ended. That's
Yeah.
that's interesting that your sub gave you. You know, everybody just gets it in a different way. It just shows how personal all of this really is. That's cool.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, now besides what I said with the sketch, I think it's always important to learn, even more than one thing. What else might you add to this?
Probably colors and then hard or maybe living, because there might have been some trees there on the
Oh yeah,
side.
sure.
And then the water, I think, is probably living. It's got like things in it, organisms or
Maybe,
something,
yeah.
fish.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have wanted to put where the color is, like in the photo, like when you draw the photo, like where is the blue,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
or yeah,
Oh, you
the
wrote blue at
colors.
bottom. Oh, that's
Okay.
oh. You wrote that blue
Oh,
bottom
blue. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
at the RV time you
Okay.
did that?
Yes.
That's good. Yeah, that's
Okay.
very good. Uh-huh.
Oh, there. Okay.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I actually did both of these together because notice they're very word heavy. They both had some sketches and they're both word heavy. I just wanted to emphasize that people perceive differently, and they can train themselves to go the other way if they want to. But the point I am making is both ways work fine. Both both ways give people the ability to get really good sessions. So whichever way you are, that's fine. Feel good about it. Make it even better in that way. And then also, when you're in your learning phase, do something which will increase your imagery, maybe, or your words if you tend to be more image like. Um, but you need to feel kind of moved to want to learn about that and be able to do that. The viewer is in charge, including which learning direction they take. Okay, questions, comments about the feedback outcome sessions? Okay, let's move on to a new prediction. So now we're down here. Will the Golden State Warriors win the 2007-2018 NBA championship? And it's sometime in June this will happen. And again, you may ask, how do I get my coordinate, right? Well, guess what? From an email. There's a group manager. I was the group manager in this case. What did I do here? I certainly don't want that. Well, I'm trying to find the PowerPoint. Okay, wait, let's see if I can find it this way. Okay, well, look, I will get to the right slide later. Right now, how do I get my tasking and my coordinate? So I need to go to my email, and this is this one. So I tasked us, and notice the event, and notice we're webinar workshop members. You're in another group. It would just simply say that group. The transcript is due today, so I put that in as a group manager. Here's the event about the Golden State Warriors winning. The start time is, no, the event date is here. Okay, so I think it's going to be like June 26th. And we're going to do it today. And guess what you do? I mean, it's really very simple. You just click on this. And again, you have to put in your email address. So I'm doing it for all of us. And then we click here. and up comes the coordinate. So in fact, on what's going to be your transcript on the top of it, you can write now, say, and write 835725. So that's going to be, and that is your coordinate. And now you do your transcript. So this is your tasking. You have your coordinate. And if I can, okay, I see it's going to have to come up again. There. Do I have to go? There's got to be a faster way. Well, we'll just do it this way. Here's a review. Okay, so here we are. And so we just got the coordinate. And this is just sort of a reminder. We're now getting into the mode of getting ready to do our remote viewing. And we're doing it in a purposeful fashion. And we're going to hook up, of course, with the feedback session. And the kinds of words we get, you've seen examples of this. I show it, but I'm not going to go over it in any detail. If anybody would like a copy of this, I'm happy to give it to them. Now, this is just so important. Joe McMonagle and Ed May, two of the sort of giants. He's a giant remote viewer. He's a giant scientist in this area. Concluded intention, attention, and expectation are very important role, okay, for what we're doing, research and applications. But I want to give another image of that for you to maybe use when you go through cool down. Think about every cell in your body and know that that's connected to the 0-point energy field. And when you're setting your intention with your consciousness, it's going down into this universe of collective consciousness. And that intention connects. It's what you get entangled with. When you walk across the street, you don't know the details of how you do that. If you had to pay attention to all the muscles that were involved, the fact that you know to look left and right for safety, all the things that you do kind of naturally are because of a simple intention. Okay? And then of course you have to pay attention. And this expectation gets to this level of confidence. Do you expect the sun to come up tomorrow? Well, yeah, you do. You know, you don't intend it to come up. You're not involved in that really personally. You don't feel that anyway. But you certainly expect it. This feeling of expectation. Have your consciousness expect to have a really good match. Okay, and you can feel that, and that'll help make it happen. Okay, literally through every cell of your body down to this universe of collective consciousness. Okay, so there's our cue. There you are. And yeah, this idea of trusting yourself. You all are at the point where you're not going to go and find a guru who's going to give you much more information. You're going to have to go deep really into yourself. Here, put on the top of your page the coordinate. Typically, you know, it's like the viewer's in charge, but most of us have come to use this kind of format, a name and a date and the time that you're starting this. I really recommend saying the coordinate out loud right now because we're getting very close to starting. So you say the coordinate out loud. You've seen the text. Some people use something like this, and I'm happy to send you a page like this, or they write it themselves. These are the kinds of things that you can expect to get from your subconscious through your nervous system. Okay, so this cool down is really very important. Joe McMonagle actually said he thought it was as much as 75%. And that's making the connection with the UCC, with the matrix, with your higher self. You know, I'm using UCC, but it's sort of the same as this thing which is bigger than you normally consider yourself to be. And you can connect with it with every cell of your body. And what I'm going to be turning on for 10 minutes is a hemisync. Use roughly half of it for what's called cool down, which is when you make this connection, and then the other half for receiving the information which you put down on the transcript. So you can actually even begin to set it now in a small way, get kind of relaxed, and you're acting as a witness now from what comes from your sub. There is in this a 5-minute notice, and then there's a 1-minute notice near the end. So I'm going to turn this on now, and I'll talk to you again in about 10 minutes. About 1 minute left. You might go down and get one more element or perception from the target. Okay, come on back to your normal state of awareness. And let me find where I want this way. Okay, stretch a little bit. I hope that felt good to you. All of these sessions typically are, I don't know, just pleasant. You should make them pleasant. Okay, so now we get into the judging phase. That's okay, Patricia. You can send it again. I see your oops. No big deal. So, what's our job now? And now, and this is, as I hope you appreciate, a really significant step, because here is where the decision is made on which target, of course, you're connected to, but is the answer yes or no? And then we might take an action on that. You know, can place a wager or make some decision based on that. So the idea is yes or no, and which, and that's all based on matching your transcript to the two possible targets. Now, there's many different philosophies on how to do the judging, you know, at different levels. At the highest level, there's this issue of, should you be mostly intellectual? Should you look at this as a dangerous area? Now, up until yesterday, my advice to everybody was to be mostly intellectual. Keep the emotions out of it, because emotions tend to light things up in the universe of collective consciousness, the UCC. And I still believe that's true. It's mostly an intellectual process, and we're going to be talking about how to do that in a moment. But Deborah came up with what I thought was pretty new. She was a person who was a independent judge. And she, when she did her remote viewing, and she's a good remote viewer, she would always have somebody else judge it, until relatively recently she got involved in some projects which did two things. First of all, she was an independent judge for a project where she saw that people did what is called displacement. Even though they would never see the wrong possible target, they drew it excellently. And that happened a lot. Enough for her to realize that there was more to this than just independent versus self-judging, that there was something going on. People had access through the UCC, of course, to the other target that they would never see. So she started thinking about this, and she came up with this idea, which is to treat the judging phase. Here's her remote viewing phase, and I guess this is putting out waves. Here's the feedback phase, and I like that you put out more waves, made it bigger, spending more time here, which is good. But having seen now for both independent and self-judging, this thing called displacement, and we see people who do good sessions and they're on the wrong one. That happens because information is picked up from the judging session. The judging session, whether it's self-judged or independent judged, is of course connected with the UCC. So the information is down there. It's kind of amazing, and you just have to sort of know that. So the issue then is, how do you avoid picking up that information? And my suggestion was intellectual, which I think is still a good part of it. But her idea is, when you go into the judging, like right now, really think of this as being a dangerous area. It's an area where you don't want to put information. You want to minimize the connection with the UCC. You do want to keep your emotions down. Um, um, she says, the project, then anchor your attention to time and actual physical space right here, where feedback will be seen with your physical eyes. I mean, her idea is just to pay total attention to what you're looking at and not think about these things as even being potential targets. Just think of them as being two pictures. You see lots of pictures in a day, she would say. And don't think of them as being possible targets at all. You just happen to be doing an exercise here of comparing. Okay, so you might, try to get that into your mind as well. We are going to be doing judging with this TARG scale, and I 0, 1 to 2. I've done this so many times, and almost all of you have seen it, but I think I need to go over it because newbies may come here. So the 0 to 7 scale, TARG is Russell Targ, one of the guys who, with Hal Puthoff, really started under that name, the Remote Viewing Project, and at Stanford Research Institute, and he and some other people put this together. So 0 is no correspondence, 1 is little correspondence, 2 is some correct elements, but not sufficient to suggest results beyond chance expectations. And 3 is a mixture of both correct and incorrect elements, but not enough of the former to indicate that the viewer has made contact, but enough of the former. Let me correct myself. 3 is just on the margin. You've made a connection, but it's just on the margin. Enough of the correct ones to indicate the viewer has made psychic contact with the target. 4 is good correspondence. He's now bringing in bigger words. You saw some of the transcripts of judging before, and when there was a lot of matches, a lot of A's, especially a lot of A's compared to the B's, for example, now you got yourself some good correspondence with several matchable elements. intermixed with good, intermixed with some incorrect. We consider a 3.5 to be wagerable. If you give a ranking of 3.5, you're saying, I'd be willing to, wager a few bucks on this. But that's our wagerable line. Below that, it would be a pass. And then a 5 gets up to good correspondence with unambiguous, unique, matchable elements, but some incorrect information. And then a 6 gets into this intellectual analytical overlays that we briefly discussed, where the intellect is getting involved, where you're matching it, and yet you see that there was the naming of the function of the target, an intellectual one. And now we have just a little incorrect information, but some. And then the 7 is basically spot on. So basically, when you rank it, you're saying just almost with words what you think the match is for the transcript versus each of the 2 targets, because we're going to do it against 2 targets. So what I want you to do, and I'm going to get the 2 possible targets now, but you just look at them as pictures, is you're going to put a confidence ranking A and a confidence ranking B on your transcript. You're going to mark the elements that match with either an A or a B. It might have an A and a B, or it might have nothing if it doesn't match either of the 2 possible targets. So Joe McMonagle, and when you do your ranking, you should basically take into account this idea of gestalts. I don't think you have to do the mathematics exactly as he said, but he believes the gestalt should be as much as 50% of the weight. So you should take that into account. And he adds the 50 up to a 1 for the gestalts, and then the second could be the ratio of the number of A's, say, to total possible elements in there. And you saw some examples of that earlier. I just do this graph for people who don't like the mathematics. So, if there was a 0.5 on the gestalts and another 0.5, you get up to 1, which is a 3.5. Okay, so let's now go get the 2 possible targets. What we have to find is this. So remember when we got the coordinates, this is the page with the coordinate on it over there and here. If you were doing this at home in one of the groups, you would now take your transcript, get it onto your computer, and then you need to upload it to our server, because people who do independent judging, for example, might like to look at it. Also, you might like to look at it 6 months from now to remember what was going on then. And so it's all stored on our computer and you would have access to it. I did not do a transcript, so I have put together what I just call a dummy transcript. And I'm opening that now. And when you're at this stage, after you have your transcript loaded here, you hit submit, you're going to expect 2 pictures to come up. And just it makes good sense to think of them as pictures. Okay, so here's the first one. I've done it like this. I've done this in different ways, but here's one picture. And some people would like to do the judging on that before they even see the other picture. But others want to see both pictures at the same time before they judge. But I've given them the option to do that, because here's the second picture. And then here are both pictures with the rankings that we have to do. So I am going to now let you do the judging. Very important. Just do it against these 2 picture photo sites. And I'm going to put this one over there. And let me see if I can get the TARC scale up here as well. No, that isn't what I wanted. I want that. Looks like I might have to close this. Okay. Okay, so there's so you can do these. I can make this a little bigger. So on your transcript, the things that match photosite A, mark an A next to. The ones that do photosite B, mark a B against those. Don't get too excited. If it matches one or the other, do stay intellectual. And if there's a particularly good match, you might make it a big B. So when you, or big A, and so when you count up how many A's and B's you have versus the total possible, if you put a big B, you might give it 2 points instead of 1. And for little b, if it's sort of there, but you're not clear, remember you're a judge, but you're judging each one of the elements, you might put a small a or b. And then when you do your count, you can count it as half a point. And then when you and take your time, this is a very important part of the ARV process. When you finish, you'll give it a CR ranking and put that into the chat box. Yes, Jack, one of these two is the actual target. I mean, we're doing this just the way we said, but just to not, Deborah basically suggests don't think of it that way because you don't want to entangle these as a target. You just sort of want to do the matching. So trust your viewing self, and to the extent you get a high points, good. Thank you, Sebastian. And then if you can, email me your transcript with the markings. Now you notice what anybody else does not matter. All that matters is you judge yours totally independently. Don't pay any attention to what anybody else did. Jack, the CRA and CRB is from this TAR confidence ranking scale. The ratio of the number of elements you get for A divided by the total possible in your transcript is the ratio you want to, and you want to put that on the transcript. You know, to the extent that ratio is high, you know, a half is getting close to high. It's subjective. Again, you're a judge. But it's the ratio of the number of A's you mark to your transcript to the total possible A's. So obviously, if you got 100%, everything matched, that's really good. And you'd like that on one side, but then the other side, you might only have 10% or 15% matching. And then, of course, that would enable you to choose one side or the other as being the possible target, and then you'd give it a CR. So if that ratio is real high and you got a reasonable match to the gestalts, then you get up into the, you know, 4 area, 5 area potentially, depending on how good the numbers are. So that's the phase you're in now. Yes, Patricia, you do that. And Danilo, yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is not entangle these with the with anything. We'd like to put a boundary around them, but we know that's impossible, so we try to minimize it. It's true you could try to entangle it with the target, but I don't see how you would know better. I mean, maybe you've got something there and you can try to work that out for yourself, but I don't understand how you would use that. I think the best thing to do is to try to put a wall around it. And that's what the idea of the danger is to put a wall around it so that it doesn't entangle with anything else to any great extent. We know everything is connected to everything else, but the idea is to reduce the magnitude of the entanglement to a minimum. Okay. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Donna. Yeah, and send off your email. Thanks, Catherine. Okay. Again, this is important, but I think what I'm going to do is take a look at the email. And we can start talking about that. Okay, and they're in my inbox. Okay. I want to. Okay. Oh, Patricia, that was your first one. Okay, let's look at yours here. Let's see. Okay, let's see if we can get the whole thing on here. Okay, there it is. Okay. Let me put this in the table. Okay, very good. If you've got, a mic, Patricia, we can look at this, but why don't you just quickly, okay, so you can talk to us about it a little bit if you'd like. Let's see. Might get me out of, well, it shouldn't. Send the email, here, I'll put it to my email address. Here, I'll put it in the chat box. There you go. And Patricia, why don't you see if you can get a mic? Let me see. Am I getting more numbers? I've got Donna. Okay, well, you may be having trouble. It looks like you're still with us, though. Okay, well, let me just talk about it. You obviously saw this and saw that being the circle and maybe radiating out, though I didn't see you give it an A. I would even give that shape, just because of see the inner thing. I would have given that inner shape a little A, not the radiating, but bright, energetic, yeah. Okay, and then you gave this daytime, outdoors, yep, that's certainly B. And then you got the colors, yellow, okay, summer tones seen. Okay, these are probably AOLs. White, hot. Yeah, I think this is Jupiter, but the feeling of it being hot, yeah, May. That's the way you experienced it. The redness of it, in fact, it probably is hot. The fact that it's so red. Uncomfortable, A and B. Yeah, this is certainly an uncomfortable picture. Natural stuff, A. Well, I would say there was natural stuff in B too. I just call it as I see it here, hoping it'll resonate yes or no with you. But okay, so you got 11 out of 13. Okay, that's very good. That's high. As I say, anything over half is roughly a half, is at the level where you say, yeah, I got psychic contact. Let's see how you did on the Gestalt. Well, I would call that outdoors. And I think this picture gives you one of the swirls here. I mean, the big thing here is all the swirling. Okay, you gave it a 5.5. That's what you feel. You should know that judges typically differ by 1. I think that might be a little high, but it's certainly in the direction of an A. You certainly didn't get water or anything like that in terms of the Gestalt here. Okay, very good. Thank you, Patricia. I don't know if you're a Patricia or a Pat, but okay. A is outdoors too. Yep. Okay. I just want to keep up on people putting in their scores as well. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Patricia. So, okay, let's get the next one. Thank you. Definitely an A, definitely not a B, is in terms of your prediction. Now, you open up this again. And we did Patricia. Let's look at Vince. Oh, and it is a good idea. I meant to say this, to put the coordinate on it, just like most of you are doing. Because then, a month from now when I search for it, it becomes easier to find. And here we go. Okay. So we'll move that over so we can look at it at the same time. And if any of you want to make, comments about the judging, don't leave it up to me. It's not like I am a magical super judge and know everything, and I miss things sometimes. So just turn on your mic and pipe in. Okay. Okay, gee, I forgot who this was, but turn on your mic. I guess let me get it from my email. Okay, Vince. I just think it's good to do some interaction here so we, other people get to hear what you were doing when you were judging. So I hope this doesn't increase entanglement. But for class, I think it's important to talk. Okay, oh, you didn't send me your thing in the chat box, but I guess I can.
Hello? Can
Hello,
you hear me?
Vince. Yep,
Can
I
you-
do.
Okay.
Vince, so what was your A and B?
I didn't tally them all up.
But you gave A a 3.5?
Yeah, I gave it a pass.
No, 3.5 is marginally wagerable.
Right.
Oh, and B is the pass, so you gave B. Yeah, well, I can see why. A lot of A's, not as many. Okay, so you want A. I'm putting this in the table, so that's why. You
Okay.
want the A to be wagerable, but just barely, right on the
Okay.
margin, but wagerable.
That's
You'd wager a few bucks on this in that direction.
that's correct. Yeah.
And then for a B, non-wagerable, maybe random, a 2.
Right.
2 would be
Okay.
sort of at the level of, hey, you get some matches just randomly. Okay, so tell us what, tell us about the good stuff here.
It's all over the place. Maybe that's what's going on in my brain too.
Quiet, wind blowing. So I can see wind blowing being for B, since those are all sailboats blowing
Yeah.
over.
Can I ask you a question, Marty? When
Please, of course.
when we're doing when we first see the picture in or the vision in our mind,
Mm-hmm.
how long do you usually try to keep that there, or does it, because with myself it just happens for a brief period of time, and it's just very difficult for me to try to keep that. I don't know if other people have had that.
That is the most, I would say 90% of the people, if not more, say that. That's the way the information comes up very briefly. In fact, some people say when you didn't do an ideogram, but one of the, many of the courses teach writing the coordinate down and then sort of doing a squiggle. They call it an ideogram.
Yeah.
And some people think all the information comes up then, and you're decoding it. So even when you get a flash, it's part of the decoding.
Okay.
So it's very normal. In fact, I would not. Well, again, the viewer is in charge. Okay, that's just so important to know. You have to work this out with your sub yourself.
Right.
But generally, when you get that flash, that's the time you go right to your transcript and you put down what you got from it.
Okay.
Plus, you should know that those flashes are almost invariably partial flashes. So you shouldn't think that the flash you get is the whole image. That almost never happens. In fact, Russ Targ once said, when that happens, when you get an exact image or something, it's probably wrong.
Okay.
Because the communication channel from the feedback to the remote viewing works in partial images, and then eventually you get enough when you might get a really good feeling for what the whole picture is. But we're at the stage, when you do something for 10 minutes where you're going to be working with partial images and words and things like that, which are all partial.
Okay. And generally speaking, does a session last 10 minutes, or is it longer or shorter, or?
People are different. Most people won't do much less than 10. Some will do it in 5 minutes. They don't even do much cool down. They've done it for so many years that they can do a session in 5 minutes. 10 minutes, a lot of people feel comfortable with that, but I get a lot of people who say, wow, that was really too short. I need more time and I want more time. And of course, in the groups, they can do that. So this is for teaching. So again, it depends on the individual. There comes a time when you get a sense that you're not going to get any new information. You're getting repeats, or you just stop getting stuff, or you feel like you're trying. If you're trying, that's a very different thing than just witnessing.
Right.
And then it's time to stop.
Does the hemisync enhance the vision?
Hemisync was most valuable to Joe McMonagle in getting it to shorten his cool down. In other words, the HemiSync helped him get in touch with what I'm calling the UCC. In other words, it helped him get rid of the day-to-day thoughts and get down to where he was able to communicate, you know, at the psychic level, was
Right.
the way
Okay.
of saying it, and doing the entanglements based on his intention.
And would you get higher hits, if I can use that word, if you meditated prior to a session?
I think so,
Yeah. Okay.
but I don't know that. And again, one of the things which I always recommend, and that's one of the reasons we have lots of places where you can put notes, you know, like, you know, right down here, you can put, hey, you know, most people are doing self-judging, so you can put the notes in there, or you make a note in a book if you have an independent judge, but keep track. Hey, on this session, I meditated for 15 minutes before doing it. But you should know that doing that once is meaningless,
Right.
because you have to decide, you know what, I'm going to work on doing meditations before for maybe 10, 15 sessions minimum, and see if your hit rate in fact goes up.
Okay.
So, and that's the advice with anything that you guys feel, you know what, I think this might improve things a little bit more. Eventually you get to the point where you get to where it's not the details in the protocol per se so much as working on your inner self to remove blocks for certain things. At least that's what I've seen.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm looking at this one, and let me just give you a little bit of feedback. Yeah, the temperature here is sort of interesting. I don't know if it's cold or hot. You know, the space is cold, but I see red there. It might be hot. And in some ways, that's a problem with a target like this. And it's just, there are always some problems like that with some targets. But yeah, the colors, the black. I mean, you're doing, this sounds like it's a pretty new one for you in terms of ARV.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but you're doing it just right. Oh, you got trees and a cliff. Yeah, that's not quite a cliff, but the trees, well, you see, that's vegetation like. Okay, you marked it as a B. Bush, I would mark as a big B. I mean, I think that's what these are bushes. But you see, this is close enough. One of the things I always say is, you know, they're metaphors and they're things like. And this is close enough that these two together, they could be a big B for sure. And interestingly enough, while this is not a cliff, yeah, so, you know, at least you'd think that way, but you wouldn't give it a lot of credit. You'd have to give it small B's. Did you give anything a big A? Yeah, quiet, wind blowing, lightly, but yeah, I guess that would be quiet. Yeah, you know, and again, one other person put in something with a pass, and I commented, you gave this a 3.5. This might very well be a pass, and there's nothing wrong with passes. You know, the idea is to get a high hit rate and to know when you're just not on, and there's just nothing wrong with passes. So you did great here.
Thank you.
Okay? And thank you. Let's go to the next one. Okay, let's do Donna. It's a PDF. Let's open it up in Acrobat. It's on my other screen, and I'll bring it over here. Okay, what is that? Oh, that was you. Here, I can close that. I end up having way too much open. Okay, there you are, Donna. Why don't you turn
Hey
on?
everyone.
Oh, hi. And yeah, so tell us a little bit about this. You gave your B of 4. What was real striking about that for you?
Well, my result and my first impression Even though it was dome shaped, and when I first saw the planet picture, I was like, oh my gosh.
Right, because of this.
Yeah, and some of the lines, but honestly, when I started going through each element and seeing that most of them, except maybe the colors, were far more closer to photosite B. Right. So we had the foliage, which I saw right away, and those domes actually were kind of foliage like that, like domed mounds of foliage.
Yeah.
And then I had definitely these lines in my mind, more like paths. You'll see that down on the bottom, I even said it kind of opens into a path, or so I kept seeing this kind of opening. And then I even had this one little spike there that I said was metal and sharp sticking up out of the, and so I started seeing more and more that perhaps I was really looking at, if we look at it, was tapered,
right,
outdoors, a fairly open landscape. It felt like a view from a vista, like you might be up on a vista looking down. It also, the motions felt like something was rolling and flowing out.
I would see that as both, but yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I see this is, I agree. No, very, very strong here, and you got this early. So this.
Yeah, that was my first thought. It was green and foliage-like with these mounds. And then I don't know what's up with those lines. They were kind of feathered to me, but
these or both.
Yeah. Those kind of came second. And then these next drawings that kind of were like paths breaking off from each other. So
interesting. But you see, this is really very good. Metal, sharp. You know, I would give that a big B. And the fact that this came early for the Gestalt. So just looking at this, and I didn't look at it as long as you did, but I don't see anything as strong here, except now they're not full circles, but these are. Yeah, you know, this could have a feeling certainly of all the motion going on in here.
Yes.
Right, shaped like a roll.
Because, well, actually, though, in my mind's eye, it was more like it was either coming over the top of the mounds, or it was kind of separate to the mounds, but maybe right in front of them. Like, the feeling I actually got when I was doing the judging was almost like, you know, those bales of hay that they make that are loose? They're kind of a roll, not really a square bale. It kind of felt like that for some reason.
See, what's interesting about, there's no sense of big. You know, I mean, if you were to go there, I think you would have a sense of big or something like that as a Gestalt.
Right.
But the roundness, and I do not see any roundness in here.
Yeah, but if you look at the land around it, they're kind of a knoll. You'll see they're kind of, and the one in the corner's coming out. I don't know.
Oh, right. There you go. There's a partial round. Okay. That's not pushing it too far. This round, I think, would be pushing it, but this one isn't. Okay, Donna, very good. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Let's look at the next one. Yeah. So we did Donna. Oh, we have a lot left. Well,
and actually, I did give A 25% of the Gestalt because of that roundness.
Okay. Oh, apparently I picked yours up, Millie. Did we do Millie already? Let me do this organized. Right, here you are. Let me see if I can make it bigger. And Millie, you have a mic. Get yourself ready. And
hello?
Hello, we hear you just fine. Good. You've got the numbers down here. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't happy about this because I I missed a couple of things that I could have done better on, which was like the textures of water, and I missed like the blue color of water, the movement of water, and then for A, I don't. I think I got the colors of
Wait,
A.
by missing you mean you didn't mark it?
No, I just didn't pick up on it like on my when I was doing the session.
Well,
Like,
how do you know you're supposed to?
I don't know.
Yeah, really, we've got to be really clear here. This is important because the remote viewing session is the time you're supposed to pick up the correct target. We don't know what the correct target is, right? It could be
Yeah,
either one of these yet. So
yeah,
don't get into your mind that you should have picked this up. Now you see that's the sort of thing which could cause you even to displace. But anyway, please be really clear that during the remote viewing session, you only want to get information from the feedback target. And when you're judging, you don't know what the right one is.
okay.
Okay. So your only guidance is matches. So the fact that
Yeah.
you didn't get water may be a good thing, because if this turns out to be the right one, you wouldn't want to get anything about water.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. So,
So you mark.
yeah, I didn't, but so I didn't have any, I had a higher score for B, a
Right.
2.5, but that's what I was kind of looking at. I went kind of like with the higher score, but I felt like, I don't know.
Yeah, you
That's
said
how
had you gotten water or waves or something,
Yeah.
you would have made it higher, but you didn't, and so
Yeah.
you judged that you did it just right. But I would really say, when you get those kinds of thoughts, like I should have and I didn't, use the 5-second rule, get rid of them, and just get back to judging intellectually what you do have here.
Okay.
And still be open to the fact that there may be metaphors and likes and stuff like that. Okay, nothing wrong with passes. Everybody,
All right.
please take that in. I see too many good viewers push it because they want to have a wagerable one every time. Sometimes the right thing to do is to pass. And this whole field is so mysterious. You'll never understand why, but the universe is telling you, pass, pass. And if you push it, you'll probably get a miss. Okay. Here. Okay, Lila, let's see what you've got. You're bigger. Make that smaller. And then we can put this over here. Okay, Lila, you got your mic on?
I do.
Okay. Oh, you gave them both 3s, huh?
Well, as I'm looking at everybody else's, I'm going, okay, I have a little more confidence. I could bump A up to a 3.5 and make it wagerable. Do you see how I circled it up at the top? I have my numbers.
Yeah, right. 3. Okay, you circled that.
Yeah.
It was marginal in your mind. Maybe.
Exactly. And I wrote in the notes that although I'm passing, I could go with 3.5 for A.
Okay, I'm going to leave it as a 3 though.
Okay.
Second, I even changed the program so I won't let people go back in twice and change their minds. I really believe the old adage, your first impression and your first choice and all that tends, nothing is all the time in this business, but tends to be the right one. Plus a 3.5 versus a 3, I consider it to be pretty weak. There's no separation or anything.
Right.
So I think treating it as a pass is just fine.
Okay.
Let me look at it quickly and see if I have any other comments. How are your Gestalt work?
Well, that's what I'm really, really pleased with is my gestalts, especially the one on the far right, that giant curve.
Oh, here, that's right.
Yes.
You should know, I always forget. You do this first and then put the words up here.
Yeah.
Viewers in charge, so that's good. Right, that curve, yes, that certainly looks like
Yeah.
A unless it's a distorted version of it.
Nah. No, because
Orientation.
it's big. Because it's
Yeah, it is
big.
big. And
Yeah.
you've got the circles.
The circles, yeah, I was
There.
curious about that. That was my very first gestalt. And the circles, I think it's that black dot that's in there.
Why didn't you make that a big A?
Well,
I see a lot of
I didn't.
circles.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. And
Okay.
let's see about that.
And then those,
Yeah.
I also thought were kind of the shape as well, but they're
Yeah.
facing the other way, I think.
Right, maybe. Yeah. Okay, but keeping that as a little A, I would agree with.
Okay.
Now, what about this A? That's not
That
a water.
well, no, that's not water. No,
Okay.
it's not really water. It's the curves there.
It's this waviness.
Yeah, that's what it is. No, water I make differently.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that was just curves.
Well, I have to tell you, looking at this, I would raise the A.
I know. That's what
But
I'm
not the
saying.
3 point. These are very good, Lila.
Are they? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. You got the
Okay.
circle, and if this is not water, and again,
It's not water.
you know your subconsciousness. Well,
Yeah.
come on, that's all of this.
I know it is. Well, that's why I wanted to raise it. Can I raise it?
Yes.
Or
Okay.
may I? Okay. All right.
In fact, I'll even make it a 4.
Let's make it a 4. That sounds good to me.
Okay. And I don't see the B. You got metallic, but that's not quite gestalt. Did you get? You got no signs of water. You got mechanical, pointy, yeah. Narrow, skinny, bigger. Okay, well, we've got on the record that you and I together changed it. But not because of your early reasons, because I think you underjudged the value of these A's.
I think so too. I think I underjudge because I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well,
actually, you know what, Marty? Seeing the planet first, that scared me. And then I thought, wait a second, it's got stuff going on in it. So I pushed my imagination.
do you think, I went to this based on some things other people had said, but I've never taken a vote or anything, but so I'd like to know what you think. This idea, that scared you. Do you think it would be better to go just right to here?
No. Nope. I think I need to really push myself and go past my fear.
Ooh.
I like to do that. I do that in my life.
Okay, good for you.
Well, how do you think I became a firefighter?
I guess that's right.
Fear, right?
That's exactly right. Okay.
So, anyway.
Okay, Lila, thank you. And,
you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's go to here again, and let's do Anita. A 5 and a 4.5. Okay, let me put you here. In fact, maybe in the future I won't even have people put it in the box. Okay, Anita. And it was a 5 and a 4.5 for A and B.
I made the same mistake as Lila.
No, that's okay. You weren't the only one, and maybe we don't need that step. And I can put it in the box as long as you put it on your transcript.
Yes, I actually neglected to mark a few things.
Oh, now you're noticing, huh?
Yes.
You know what? One of the reasons I do this is for just that. I hear that way too often. Whoops, and this is upside down. Let's see if Power Media will let me flip it. I don't see. Maybe tools, upgrade. I don't know why it went into this. What did you sent it? Okay, well, okay, I'm going to have to reverse this. Maybe you can talk about it a little bit while I reverse it. I can reverse
Okay.
it, and I will.
Okay.
But
The first impression that I got was of round things with a kind of almost like a rainbow blue, but with a like a lacy effect.
okay.
And I actually also got a fright when I opened it because it reminded me of the planet, but then I looked at the right and the further trees and stuff also reminded me of the lace effect. But because it gave me an impression of softness, of haziness, I think it's rather, I'd match it with the planet. And then after that, I got like almost vertical layers matching the rivers and things to the right.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm listening and trying to. I did
Okay.
this wrong.
And the colors I got, well, I actually got a lot of aspects of both. So I ended up going into my AOLs and also marking that because a lot of that I saw could be associated with things actually in the photo sites. And I think that helped a lot.
Okay.
But mostly I got the roundness of the planets.
Okay, but you ranked the other one pretty high too.
I also, because I got a lot of aspects, like metal and woody, the smell like smelling like freshly painted wood, or sharp, smooth. It's things one really can't associate it with a planet, so it had to be B. But in the end, I still
you went higher
got the
for
most
this.
marks, yeah.
But you did get, do you have the count? Did you do a count of matches?
Yes. I got the Gestalt as a 1 and the aspects 24 out of 60.
Okay.
Times 3.5 gave me a 4.9. So I rounded that to a 5 because there was one or two things that I didn't mark. Gestalt B I gave a 0.75. Plus the aspects 36 out of 60. That gave me a 4.72.
Okay, so that's yes. Okay, so you use Joe's technique.
Yes.
But I would also say, just listening to your words, and you're allowed, the viewer's in charge, even when you're judging, the judge is in charge as the viewer, to modify that. But I look at this and I tend to agree. Lots and lots of circles.
Especially the rainbow effect got me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, very good. You're on my table. I thank you. I don't think I ever quite got your transcript right, but
It's okay. I can send it again.
You look like I'm dyslexic.
Not at all.
Yeah, let me close that. And let's go to the next one.
Marty, can I ask you a question while
Sure.
you're getting to the next target? It's Vince here again.
Yeah.
Would there be a disconnect if you have a bias regarding? I'm not a Golden State fan, right?
Right.
So would that alter some of the final decision one way or the other?
Okay, my feeling is no, because everything is so random. Your task is to describe and sketch the photo you're going to see.
Okay.
So 99% no, but there's always a however, because, right? And I'll tell you why. And in fact, it's sort of one of the problems with the UCC model. Your subconscious, now it's your subconscious, through
Oh, can you get in?
Your subconscious
Getting ready to
has
interview.
access to everything.
That's okay. I can't. My
Wait,
my
wait,
headphones
wait,
are.
let me mute MJ here. Your subconscious does indeed have access to everything. I mean, it's kind of amazing to say it that way, but it seems to, right? Well, look at the remarkable things you've seen. And so if in some strange way that wanted to dominate this process, it might affect it. But I think that's at the 1% level. But I just have to share it with you because this issue of the UCC having access to everything just changes the way I look at the world.
Right.
And
okay.
So you understand my logic.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Okay. We're working with. I got to go back here. I'm afraid.
MJ.
Mary. Okay, good. MJ, good. You're on. Your mic is on.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I do. I hear you well. Let me turn this one down. Okay, very good. Tell us.
Well,
what's
I'm
going
an
on.
absolute newbie. You can see my bright green.
Okay.
So, and I didn't understand.
Congratulations, actually.
They just jumped in. So I didn't understand the scoring, so I sort of left that blank, and I didn't realize there were large letters and small letters for scoring either. So anyway, I did give myself an A on all the colors because they were in the A drawing.
Right.
And it seemed like as I was listening to everybody else judge, I had a lot of audio and I was very, very, very distracted. So you'll see notes about audio there.
Yeah, okay.
And I just kept feeling the temperature and that it was tense and that it was warm, almost hot. And I was hearing voices like muffled, like maybe shouting or behind a wall or something. And I did get the musky smell. What else? I did get the round item in the middle. So I gave myself an A because it was in the,
you gave it a 7?
No, I was just adding up my 8.
So the
I didn't get the scoring part. So
2 matches. Okay, very good.
So no, I didn't give myself that. I just added up the A's and then added up the B's. So what else can I tell you? The colors were good. Oh, wait, let's see. There's a round item in the middle.
Versus A, but you got people.
Yeah, I did. In the middle, and then
sweat. This looks like water.
Right. Like it was. So like you could feel the moisture.
Did you give yourself a B for that?
No, I didn't score it. I wasn't sure if I was on or not.
Yeah, but I would, again, just the marking part. They're separate from the final scoring. I would give. I mean, even with the people, while there are probably no people in here. There were.
Right.
And if just that, I might not mark it, but with this, which looks like water and all of this, I would probably give this whole thing at least a B. I'm just sharing you my feelings. You're the judge, the viewer's in charge.
Okay.
Let me see if I see anything else. Bump into, you got wet here.
Yeah.
Bump into wet things? Oh,
right.
Come on. That's a big B. Well, look, bump. These things obviously bumped into something, right?
Yeah, they certainly did.
And you've got the water. And was that one of the first things that came to you?
No, actually, I went down the left side of the paper and then the right.
But I mean, you would have to give that a big B. I think you would agree. I'm telling. Judging is one of the most difficult ones because, for one reason or other, mine might get on like I think yours got on. I think it's this one, so you didn't make the connection with this.
Also, after you were interviewing Anita, I believe it was, when you were talking about the swirls on the picture of the planet, I was looking at the swirls on photo B about the edges that looked swirly to me, but when you were talking to her, so I have the word curly about number 4 on the left-hand side. I put B, but I think maybe it would apply to A too.
Mm-hmm. And then you can put an A and a B when you're judging it. And then the only thing you didn't do, which is very valuable, is to take the 7, and whatever your B is, maybe it would be 3, but whatever, and divide it by the total possible. Because you know, there's a lot of stuff here that you didn't mark. And I suspect both of your numbers would have been under a half.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely have more A's than B's. So I'm going to put you MJ, and I would say, see, it's hard for me to give you a 3 because I don't see a good gestalt.
Mm-hmm.
But we got the colors. I don't know what anybody else would think, but I'm going to make this a 2.5.
Yay. First time.
Well, no, that's the yay, really. That you did it, you got stuff, you went through the procedure, and you did it, you know, just beautifully. And then I'll make the B a 2, though I must admit I like the water. And the bump into wet things, you see, that's almost at the gestalt level. Okay,
Getting close.
but I'll make that a 2 because your gut was A, and I'm trusting your gut
Okay.
in terms of the leaning. Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Yeah. Now let's go. Whoop. I don't know why I did that. It's this. Okay, Jack. Now I've got 2 from you. Are they the same, or page 1 and page 2? Well, I'll open up the last one.
Can you hear me, Marty?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Well, they're the same thing. You
Okay.
had to put the target number on them.
Oh, okay. That's all you added. Okay, very good. So here you are. And let me reduce that, which opens up that. There you go. Very good. Okay, so tell us, let's see, CRA was 2, CRB was 3.
Okay.
So, Jack, so let me take a look at this as well and see, and others feel free to pipe in, but first I'm just going to get you in the system here. So that is a 2 and a 3. Okay. So did you count up your A's and B's?
Well, I counted the A's, I counted the B's, and down at the very bottom, and then I counted the
them. Yep.
total number of items on the page. Is that?
Yes.
Came up with the 20.
And that's how you got to 0.65. Very good. That's exactly right. Okay, now the fact that this is 0.3 is already says, unless you've got a magical gestalt for this, that you're going to be non-wagerable. Again, I've actually, in my mind, I combine both Joe's approach and the words together. And you gave yourself a CRA of 2, and I certainly don't see any gestalt-like things for this. The closest is maybe this, which is the roundness.
Right.
Well, and maybe this, but that's not a gestalt, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, that all that
shape.
Actually, I had to go find some paper and take a bio break when you started the session, so I really did all this in about 3 minutes.
That's okay. Some good sessions have come out.
The sketching was about 10 seconds worth of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely felt it was some kind of man-made
yeah, see what you
did the AOL on a bridge. And,
yep, she got structure. You see, that's more gestalt-like. See, now large definitely goes more with A than B.
right.
But now wind, these are, well, at least 2 of these are sailboats. Black, gray, blue, texture smooth, rough, smells, outdoors. it's sort of interesting. I don't even know what I would say if this is, I mean, yeah, it's outdoors in the really big picture
Yeah.
sense, but we don't usually mean it that way.
Right.
Mountain bridge, yeah. Okay, I can't disagree with, I think these are just about right. You know,
Okay.
the 0.65 is high enough that it gets you close, and then you have to say, do you think it's, would I wager on this? And
I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd pick B, but.
Right, and you made it higher. You see that these CRs ultimately communicate almost everything in
Okay.
terms of your mind. And it did, just the way you said it. You know, it was close. B is stronger than A, and that's what
So-
you communicated, but you wouldn't really wager on it. Now, if somebody else came across and gave it a 3.5, couldn't argue with them either. As I say, different people will get to within 1. I mean, you've
Is
got
this-
structure, man-made, that's pretty good Gestalt level stuff.
So the CR is like your overall feeling about.
Confidence ranking.
Okay.
That's what it stands for.
Looking at the TARG list.
Looking at the TARG list,
Okay.
and if you get over 3.5, you say it's wagerable. It's a confidence ranking in terms of the matching being the right target based on just the match. So
Yeah.
it's a confidence in the match. You're saying this was marginal. You know, when people give a 5 and a 6, they can point to lots of good matches, and their ratios here are
Right.
usually 0.65 or higher when they get up to 5 or 6 or 7.
Uh-huh.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I think that was the last one. And so let's now take a look at my table and make sure that I've got the numbers right here. And then what I'm going to do is make a group prediction. But what's most important always is the personal prediction. So take a look at yours, and I hope I didn't leave anybody out. And now I'm going to go through a process I do for the group prediction, where I need to have, I think I have to make this a bit bigger. Right. And so I mark everything 3.5 because it's the first time you can be wagerable, and I see people who push it a little bit. I'm not saying you did, but it may be natural, So I make that yellow, and then I make the 3.5s like a gray. I count it, give it credit. Anything under 3.5 for the group I ignore for my group prediction. So there's a 5, there's a 4.5, there's a 4. So that's yellow, and no 3.5s. Okay, so that's the first thing I do. So I have 1, 2, 3 yellows on each side. Okay, so greater than 3.5 is 3 and 3. The other thing I consider is the differences between them. Now notice this one. This is strong. The 1 and the 5 is just strong because there's a big difference.
Marty, you didn't see mine.
What is that?
Sebastian, we didn't charge mine.
I didn't do yours?
No,
Oh, we didn't show it?
no.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I definitely want to do it, especially in view of it being a 1 and a 5. I'm sorry you didn't speak up sooner. It doesn't matter. Speaking up now is great. Let's take a look at it.
Marty?
Did you send it to me,
Yes,
Sebastian?
Sebastian. One
Oh.
down. Let's go down, Sebastian. Silly. One down. Here,
Oh, there you are. Oh, I must have thought that wasn't 1. Okay, yes, no, I definitely always like to look at 5.
Marty?
Yep.
You didn't see mine either, Patricia. What, Patsy Posey at the bottom. I'm sorry. If you called my name, I probably ran into the other room for a second.
If I have you on the list, I think I did, and I think I did the session. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll take a look. Let's do Sebastian, and then we'll take a look at whether I have a score for you, in which case I did it without you, but we might want to do it with you too. Okay, Sebastian, tell us your logic for a 5. You know, a 5 says unambiguous and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the first thing what I get was heart beating, something fear, laugh, I don't know, something happened. So the first thing, and then the second thing what I get was falling water. I didn't expect falling boats.
Okay, that's this, yes.
It's a waterfall that is down around.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people on the metallic, maybe on boats, and they watch this, and my AOL was, oh, they watch a waterfall, it couldn't be bad. But I get this heartbeat, these emotions.
Right. And I liked flood because, you know, I mean, it isn't just water. Flood, it isn't too hard to see how your subconscious would connect the flood with the two ships, two sailboats, yeah.
And I get this fear emotion in.
Yep. Okay, and then in terms of the other one, you see you gave that one a 1.
Because I get a beautiful and the stone I get.
Right, and that was all.
And maybe a color or 2 hours, but really it was really definitely.
Wow, that's good. Okay, so I see clearly a gestalt, the water, the structure, the flood. And I don't know if you did the ratio, but I'm just looking at all of these B's, and I think your ratio would have been very high, maybe as high as 80%. And you know what I mean by ratio? The B's that you mark divided by the total that it could have been. In other words, all of your elements, you count them all up, and you count the picture. You know, like this picture I would count at least as 2. I mean, the people is one part, and then the shape and everything is another part. Okay, that's very good. I'm really glad we looked at this. Yes, I would say that legitimate 5 and 1. Again, within 1. Different judges are good within 1.
Okay.
Very nice. I do recommend, though, you work that ratio.
It was 20, 14, and 23. To make it afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Wow,
okay.
It's a lot.
That's a good ratio.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. I see why I didn't pick up your name, though. But now let's see about Patricia. No, that's something else. Let me go back here. Oh, I don't know if I did you. All I know is I marked you. Okay, let's go find you, Patricia. I love to look at the high numbers. See, and you got a good separation as well. You see, this makes the point. So this was really important to stop on. One of these two are going to get a hit, the other's going to get a miss, and the miss is going to be, well, let's look at Patricia's, but assuming Patricia's is, you know, right on, and should be a 5.5 or something like that, the other person is going to get what's called that displacement. And it's just the way the UCC seems to work. And at that level, it's up to each person to figure it out for themselves. You know, why? And I actually recommend you ask whoever is going to get the displacement, ask your sub whenever you get something like that, why did I do that? Or why did we do that? Why did you give me that? And funny enough, your subconscious will give you something. You know, that's one of the benefits of meditation. You open up that communication channel, and just like you get information in remote viewing, you'll get information from your subconscious. Okay, there you are. Yeah, we saw this one. Patricia, we talked about this. Right? Are you there, Patricia, or did you leave? Because I remember this thing right here.
It looks like there were two Patricias here.
Aha. Is this?
Marty, can you hear me?
Yes, now I hear you.
Okay. The first Patricia at the participants list says Patricia, but it should be Patsy.
Okay. So.
And under Patricia's target that she sent in, I am underneath it says Patsy Posey.
Okay.
Sorry about the mix-up. I don't know why it called me Patricia.
Okay.
And I do have a CRA of 2 and a CRB of 3.5 that I put into the chat box.
Okay. And I missed that. I apologize for that. But let's put you here now. Patsy. Is that what you call yourself?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And you said 2 and 3.5?
Yes.
Okay, so that doesn't change the total scoring, but let's look at your transcript so we can
and it's not quite like everybody else's because I haven't done it for a while, so I don't write down taste and smells, but I will when I start doing it again.
Yeah, you might as well because the sub can report that.
Yes.
Okay. There's no way I have to use this again. I can almost read this. Yours is clear enough. So why don't you tell us about it? I can actually read this. I think everybody else can.
Okay.
It's getting late.
Image,
we're already past 3 hours.
Right. Okay. It's just I got a lot of shiny plastic field gloss, long, thin, black, entangled things.
Right.
So I'm assuming that was the boat. So I gave that my B.
A higher one.
Yes.
Right. And it looks like in terms of the ratio.
It was 5 to 12.
Oh, so B got 12.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty strong. Let me see if I see. Do you get a gestalt? Did you get water?
No, I didn't.
You got long, though. Right. And yeah, I don't see it in the shapes. Okay. I don't have anything to add. I think that was, it's just right. I mean, because you got a high ratio, I can see all the B's. And the 3.5 is fine.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me make this gray. And okay. And Patricia, we looked at yours before that. Okay. Now I understand. Interesting. And so now how am I going to do the group judging? But I hope you understood what I said. This UCC, you have access to everything. And for reasons which I think sometimes have to do with the pictures being either more attractive to you or unattractive to you, or there are lots of reasons we can come into, but only the person at this level, when you get a displacement, it becomes very personal. And you need to ask your sub. But I've got 3 of these. I've got 3 of these. I've got the same number of 3.5s. I mean, it's pretty clear on this one that I'm going to have to pass. This, Anita, being so close, had this been a 5 and a 1, I might have leaned towards this side a little more. Though a 4 and a 2 is pretty good. I'm just going to have to pass. Now, what would you do if you were the group manager and you've seen everything I've seen, and here are the numbers? Would you do anything else? Would you tend to go to one side or the other? Now for personal, like the 5 and a 1, there, and I'm going to show you in a minute how you could wager. You know, it would be perfectly reasonable for each of you to wager in the opposite way, except having seen this, you might not want to. But that would be up to you. But I do believe in supporting yourself. So nobody wants to add anything?
I'll add something.
Okay.
This is Lila. I would lean toward A.
Yes, Marty, I think I would also lean a bit more to A with that rainbow effect that I got from the start. It really was strong in A.
And you see, and what this does is reinforces that, and I'm going to show you, there's actually a wager out there on this. You could wager on this. So you could take an action if you wanted to. And based on what you said, based on trusting yourselves, you should do that. You know, in fact, both Lila is stronger on A, and well, whoever else spoke was on A. I don't quite have your voice down yet.
Oh, sorry, it's Anita.
Yeah, okay. And so you can do that. But I'm sitting here as a group manager, and I see these two, right? And I looked at them. I didn't fault them in any way within a rating of 1 or so. And so I have to make a pass. Good predictions on both sides. That's what I will say as a group manager. Okay. So, in fact, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put that the same thing in the now to finish off the prediction, and this would be just like what you would have to do, right? If you were sitting there and you're doing this yourself, you would put your individual confidence ranking in there. And since I'm passing, but they were good, there are 2 ways of getting the whole thing as a pass. If both numbers are under 3.5, since 3.5 is wagerable, if they're both under, you get a pass. Or if they're the same, you get a pass. So I'm going to make these the same because I had good ones on both sides. I'm going to put in thoughts and feelings. And then as a user, you click submit and you're done. But you do know now, and this is the first time, notice up to this point, and this gets a little bit, in fact, a lot, to the question asked about what if you're a fan of that team. We didn't know which was no and which was yes. Photosite A was randomly associated with no. So if you were an A fan, you believe that the question is a no, and I think I write the question, yeah, will the Golden State Warriors win? So A said no and B said yes. So as a user, this is when you now know what your prediction was. Though if you were strong on A, it would have said yes or no right here. Okay, so it comes here. But even when it's a pass, and let's say you were leaning towards A, you would know that from here. So the system really gives you all the information you would want, I believe. That was certainly its intention. Fair enough. Okay, so we've done. We've made a prediction. Everything is in the system. So I'm now going to go back and we'll finish off with the PowerPoint presentation. You know, I don't know if, you know, this is like if you were sitting in someplace, a class for 4 hours or 3 hours. I mean, we're 3 hours and 20 minutes. And I guess I don't really mind if you guys are getting enough out of this to make it worthwhile. Okay, hold on here. And this is the one I want to open. And for some reason, I have to switch screens. There must be a way of changing the default, and I'll have to work that out. I have a new, this is online, the Microsoft system. So I'm learning that as well. Okay, so in at least bookmaker.eu, they had this wager, and they put it just like this. This is from their site. So this was, will the Golden State Warriors win? And they had yes being a -163, which means this is the favorite. Did I say that? I'm not sure I said that. Okay. -163 means, and everything scales, but they do it on the basis of a $100 wager. If you were to put up $163, you would get $100 back because this is the favorite. Here, if you were to put up $100, you would get $131 back, plus your original 100, of course, in both cases. So that happens to be the way the odds makers are putting it, which they do it based on stats and stuff like that. Okay, let me just do a couple more here. This is from Skip Atwater, and you know this is the universe of collective consciousness. This is you with your fuzzy boundary. That's what I intended you to think of this. So here you are, big, but within you is the whole universe with the fuzzy boundary. Around it, connecting to you. There has to be a fuzzy boundary connecting to you. So I kind of like that image. And Skip, some say that we pass from spirit into the physical at birth, and conversely pass from the physical world into spirit at death. I say that we never pass from the spirit. And he was the head of the RV unit. What's so interesting is almost everybody I know who is in this field and who knows it's real, you know, they've done it, they've seen it, there's no longer any question that precognition and retro-causality are real, they all tend to get more and more spiritual, almost all of them, just because you just sort of get this sense of how deep this goes. And it's that sense that you want when you're doing your remote viewing session and feedback session, because it's from that deep place that all this entanglement occurs. We are born of love. Love is our mother. That's a Rumi quote. And here's another one I like. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. That's what that says. And that's what Rumi says. Okay. This completes what I had planned on doing. And any comments, questions, I'm open to that right now. Okay. If not, I thank you for joining me here, and I will end this. And I turned on the recording, so that'll be shared with everybody. So let me end the meeting. Thank you all. Keep precogging.